DNA, computer forensic science, CCTV. All of this can be used to catch and convict a criminal of murder. But what about paranormal evidence? We've got mediums who claim that they can speak to the dead, and people have apparitions of ghosts after they've met their fate. But none of this can be used in court. But it has in the past. This is the very bizarre story of Anne Walker.
This is Great Lumley in County Durham. It sits on a hill overlooking the town of Chesterley Street and the Riverside Cricket Ground, home of Durham, as well as Lumley Castle, which of course has its own ghost stories. The village itself is growing, home to nearly 3,500 people.
The year was 1630. It had just been a really good harvest, and James Graham was working in this mill late one night. As it approached midnight, he heard a noise downstairs, so he went down to investigate, and there he saw a young woman in her early 20s, blood gushing from a head wound. She introduced herself as Anne Walker, and she'd just been murdered by a Mark Sharp and John Walker. Now, the link to this, John Walker was the next door neighbour of James Graham. She claimed that she'd been murdered and dumped down a pit less than a mile away from here. She even told the exact direction to where the body would be found, as well as the murder weapon and blood-stained clothes. Now, James was obviously a little bit terrified, but he didn't do anything at first. Then the next night, the ghost appeared again as he walked through these woods. And again, the night after, the ghost threatening him even more that she would continue to haunt him until he went to a magistrate and report the crime. Eventually James did that, and sure enough, a body was found in a pit, like where he said. Also, there was a murder weapon, a pickaxe, and blood-stained clothes belonging to that of Mark Sharp. John and Mark were found guilty of murder in Durham court in 1631. So the story goes that Anne had gone to live with John, where she mysteriously became pregnant, and when a few rumours started to go around the village, John had to act on this with the help of Mark. He told her that she could go and live in another part of the country to get away from the speculation. She'd gone with Mark, who decided to murder her beneath this very tree. In fact, the locals here in Lumley still refer to this as the murder tree.
Walker and Sharp never confessed, but it was claimed that Annie's ghost was also present at the trial, as well at Durham Assizes, and juryman George Fairhair, born in Lanchester, said under oath that he had seen the likeness of a child standing on Walker's shoulders, something to bear in mind considering Annie was said to be pregnant at the time of her death.
So, was these woods haunted by the ghost of Anne Walker? We will never know. This was a time though when people were superstitious. Most people believed in witchcraft and the paranormal. Was this a case of a ghost coming back to find justice against her murderers? Or could this even be a case of James being the murderer himself, but using the paranormal to pin the blame onto somebody else? We will never ever know.
But Annie's ghost was still not done. In 1967, a local newspaper reported that Harry and Sissy Reed from Bertley were walking along the river in these very woods when they saw the body of a woman lying in the snow, covered in blood. As Harry rushed forward to try and see what he could do to help the woman, the body just faded into nothing. So what did happen here? Was this the perfect alibi to get out of murder and pin the blame on somebody else? Or was this a case of the paranormal coming back and getting its revenge? You decide.